Hey, buddy, how you
Hey
doing?
Doc, how are you? Good, thanks.
I'm
How are
good,
you?
man. Sorry to catch you at such a crazy time
No,
traveling.
no,
Everything good?
no. Everything's great, thank you.
All right, man. Are you and you're here in Miami, right?
I am. I'm here in Miami for the weekend.
Awesome, awesome. Where are you coming from?
Dallas.
Okay.
We had a crazy rainstorm, so we were delayed for a while, and then coming into Miami, we literally had to circle the runway. So
All right. Well,
landed
listen,
and
man.
on the way.
Thanks for joining us. I know your time is precious. Just gonna do a brief introduction about you for people who may not know who you are.
Perfect.
Um, while everyone just logs on. So we're lucky to have Adie von Gontard today. He's definitely one of the biggest names in terms of sports agency in the world. Co-founder, CEO of Young Money, APAA Sports and Entertainment. He's been immersed in sports his entire life. His background is incredible. His great-grandfather founded Anheuser-Busch, and his grandfather owned the St. Louis Cardinals. He graduated with a double major in real estate finance and sports management from SMU. Spent the early years of his career focusing primarily on sports marketing, where he was able to set himself apart from others in the industry due to his creative thinking. He's created unprecedented wealth for his clients, securing not only large endorsements, but also ownership in companies that continue to grow into national powerhouses. 80 formed APAA Sports Group because he understands the value of having all the necessary services for his clients in one agency, something that is not really offered in other agencies. So anyway, great to have you here, Adie, here to talk about the business of sports, and just a real pleasure to have you with us today.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Sure, no problem. So I'm going to start by I think people understand what a big business sports are, or at least they think they do. But just to give a little
Sure.
background, the North American sports business market, the revenue alone has surpassed $80 billion a year. That's more than half of the GDP, or more than half of the countries in the world's GDP. Why are sports such a tremendous business? What motivates people to kind of pour money into it the way they do?
I know it's amazing. It just keeps getting bigger. I think it's just the camaraderie that sports brings, to United States and really to the world. It's global, and people want to root for their favorite player or root for their favorite team. And I think it brings people together, and especially with everything going on, with the pandemic going on, just being able to have that outlet or the release, to still be able to root on your team or root on your favorite player. I think it's a combination of that just brings everybody together. For those 3 hours when the game's on.
Now, what country in the world do you think puts the most money into sports? Is it the U.S.?
It has to be. I mean, I
It
think
has to be.
yeah, it's definitely the United States for sure, and then I think China puts a ton of money into basketball, but football, with it being so big in the United States, and now obviously them trying to go global as well. With I think every team now is going to play internationally, and they're going to go not just the typical London, and they're going to go to Mexico and look at South America and different other places to really expand football globally as well.
Yeah. And where does the money or where does the revenue come from? Is it mainly tickets? Is it merchandise? Is it the media outlets? Where is the major money generator in sports?
The major revenue generator is still TV. Just with the TV rights being so humongous. But definitely this year, I think you saw firsthand with the pandemic the loss that you have when you can't have people in the stadium, and then it goes to exactly like you said, merchandise, concessions, parking, and everything else that comes with having fans in the stands. But far and large, obviously the media is still king, and I think that's why you see with all these huge TV deals continue to expand.
Interesting. Now, like we're talking about the business of sports, but what makes the business of sports different than other businesses? Since you're so immersed in it, what have you noticed being different compared to others?
I think the biggest difference is you never have the same day twice. Everyone thinks that you just, as an agent, you negotiate a contract and then that's all you do. But I think they really fail to see that, there's so much more to sports than that, especially on the agency side, helping the player train, meal prep, every single thing to get ready for a draft in the NFL or NBA. And then, once he gets drafted, helping them get into the city that they're going to, helping them figure out the best places to stay, the best locations to stay, and then helping them get immersed into that city as well. Then the marketing aspects of it, of trying to build their brand in whatever respective city, help them get back in that community. There's just so much more than just the negotiated contract and then, on to the next. There's a lot more into sports that I think behind.
Yeah, it seems like every day is kind of a new challenge, of course, with all the different moving parts.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the more controversial aspects about the business of sports are the crazy salaries sometimes. So, for example, Pat Mahomes, one of the greatest quarterbacks to play, just signed a $500 million contract last year. Obviously, an exceptional talent, one of the best quarterbacks. A teacher barely makes 50, 60, 70,000. So obviously controversial about the money generated by sports and what athletes get paid. In your opinion, are those salaries justified? And if so, why?
I think they are definitely justified because, again, looking at, more to sports, these athletes aren't just, everyone looks at it's a 16-game season or now it's a 17-game season, with the NFL expanded. I mean, these guys are training literally every single day, 365 days a year. And then, people can say, okay, well, they're training, they're doing what they love. They're putting their body through so much in any season, in any preseason, in any mini camp. And there's studies of it's so much, going back to you being a doctor as well, like the study of, on basketball, having to travel, from city to city and the different time zones and what that does for your health, what it does for your brain of, not sleeping in the normal hours. And there was a study that was done where they literally studied the brain of every single athlete, I think, in Portland 3 or 4 years ago. And in the beginning of the season, everyone was, peak athlete, 18 years old, in terms of, the brain being fully functionable. And as the season continued to go on, it just deteriorated because of the travel, and the different time zones, like I was saying, and just every single thing that, again, goes into sports that you don't really think about. There's only football, you only have to play once a week. I mean, these guys have to put their body through so much off the field, and same thing on basketball, the travel and just the wear and tear that you put on your body.
I mean, I would also answer that by saying that those sky high salaries are driven by us. Exactly. I mean, the people who are, if people stopped buying merchandise, stopped watching on TV, didn't go to the Chiefs game, Pat Mahomes wouldn't be making $500 million. So I also feel like we the people are driving these salaries higher and higher because there's so much money being funneled into sports. So we have no one really to blame but ourselves.
Exactly. And also to that point too, I mean, I completely. And even speaking more on Mahomes' contract, and it's amazing for him at, $500 million, that also you have to look at the guaranteed money aspect of it, of, it's in terms of other jobs where the risk of getting injured or the risk of sustaining something, it
froze out on me there.
That's very significant in basketball, football. Can you hear me now?
Yep, there you go. Yeah, you just froze out for like 2 seconds, but
okay. Sorry about
that. Are you there still? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I think you're all right. Can you hear me? There you go. Perfect. Yep. So I was going to move on and say, another controversial topic are the discrepancies between male and female athletes and their reimbursement. This kind of came to light with the U.S. soccer team, the women's team being one of the best teams in the world, the men's team being one of the worst, and the men getting paid 4 or 5 times what the women get paid. how do we equal that playing field in terms of women and men's sports and reimbursement?
That's a terrific question. And I don't think anyone's been able to figure out that answer to that to this day. But it's a terrific question, and definitely needs to figure out and be revisited. I think colleges have done a great job, recently, of making sure that there's the same amount of male sports as there is female sports in all major colleges. But that question of reimbursement, I think it has to be the even playing field, and it's the hard part is all these huge corporations are looking at their bottom dollar, and that's their biggest thing. So that's a tough question, and as on the agency side, we want to make sure that all athletes are being paid and compensated as much as possible. So I definitely understand that and see that, and agree with it completely.
Have you guys run into issues with your female athletes who you guys represent fighting for better pay, what they deserve? Is that something that you guys have met resistance when you're negotiating?
We have a WNBA player that we represent, and she's been terrific. And the beauty of the WNBA is you can play in the WNBA, and they also play overseas if you'd like. So, but again, it's tough because you look at NBA salaries, and then you look at WNBA salaries, and they're not comparable. And on the other side, then you have to be creative of marketing deals, and other brands that luckily in this too, there's brands that you can go for that are female oriented over male oriented. So you really just trying to capitalize on that and be creative.
Now, what about high school athletes going pro? Do you think that high school athletes should be allowed to go pro? And if so, football, basketball, like baseball, they already do, but basketball and football, do you think that they should be going out of high school potentially?
I think basketball, we will see that they will. It's just a matter of time. I think 2022, 23, they keep throwing out the dates. There's this new league that's being formed in basketball where athletes 16 and 18, instead of going to high school, can actually go to a semi-pro league where they're compensated, and then go straight from there to the NBA. So I think the football aspect, I don't know how a 18-year-old or 19-year-old can go to the NFL and take the hits and the contact to your body that would be required. So I guess that would be more of a you question. So I just think the football side of having where they have to play for 3 years or be in college for 3 years, I think a lot of that has to be for protection of your body, which makes complete sense. So I could see baseball and I could see basketball, but I think football would be a pretty tough spot.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think that's what we're going to see. So moving from high school to college, now the next controversial question, should college athletes be paid?
Right.
Super, controversial. I know Florida's moving towards it. Other states are moving towards it. But in order to even the playing field, it kind of needs to be a national decision. What are your opinions on collegiate athletes being reimbursed, and how should they be reimbursed?
I think there's name, image, likeness that's being thrown around, and I think in Florida it's happening, and in a few major states. It's a tough question, but obviously the amount of revenue that these college athletes are bringing to their universities is astronomical, and if you just continue to pull that stat, people say, well, they get a free scholarship, so they don't have to pay for college, and that's true. On the flip side, I would argue that a lot of these guys, they're having to focus 20 hours of their day or 18 hours of their day on basketball or football, so they're not really able to experience the college and, even more importantly, get the proper education because they're constantly on the road traveling for games or, for practices as well. And then if you look at the statistics of college athletes that go to play in the professional leagues, I know it's less than 5%. I think it's even lower than that. So the idea of, well, they're going to play college and then they're going to go professionally, it doesn't happen, unfortunately, with the amount of players that have ever played in the NFL and NBA and, the amount of D1 schools, nationwide.
Yeah. I think it's about financially protecting them for the future, like you're talking about. And, obviously competition for these high level athletes is so high. What do you guys do at APAA Sports to kind of differentiate yourself when you're competing for these high level collegiate athletes going to the NFL, going to the NBA, how do you make sure that you land the top talent?
Sure. I think it's really all about just, being yourself and being genuine. I think this business is so cutthroat, and there's so many, agencies out there, and, they continue to expand. But I think we've been fortunate enough to really build a reputation for ourselves of, like you said, when you were making the introduction, that just goes above and beyond just negotiating an NFL contract or negotiating an NBA contract. We have a great team in place here in the whole agency, and just the focus is so much more than just the contract. And of course the contract is a huge part and huge for every athlete, financially, but I think then looking what else can we do for our clients, and expanding their wealth far and beyond just the contract that they're signing.
Now, along those lines, we've all heard these crazy stories about, people come out of college, they sign these huge contracts, and the rate of bankruptcy and blowing their money is sky high. Now, do you guys do any type of financial counseling, anything to guide these people who may not have the best education, who have never had that type of money before?
I think that's really the biggest differentiator, and even again going back to your introduction on me of where I came from. I'm really trying to do that for my family and build generational wealth for my family. And it's exactly like all these athletes that are going to come in, they're about to get millions of dollars, but how do they take those millions and make millions? And if that's in real estate, if that's in tech, if it's in whatever they're looking forward to do, I think that's really the biggest differentiator that we've done. Of I'm always looking of how can I get clients to have equity in companies, rather than taking a $50,000 or $100,000 endorsement deal. What if we can get 5% or 10% of one company? And we see it in Uber, we see it at the Drink Body Armor. You see all these companies that have just taken off. It's just thinking outside the box, and that aspect is really something that I'm a huge proponent of.
So do you guys do formal financial counseling with your players in terms of like, this is what we're recommending that you do with your investments, with your endorsements, what have you?
So we're always looking at new and innovative ways. So we're definitely, the also with me being young and my brothers, being young, and they all do commercial real estate in Dallas. And then my oldest brother is actually a lawyer as well. So we are always just, overseeing and guiding any way we can, and we never are the ones that say, hey, do this or do that. But, any questions they have, any insight that we can offer, we're always, overseeing and helping any way we can in that.
So that's great. It sounds like it's a real family environment, and it's that personal relationship that I think most athletes are kind of looking for. Is that correct? They don't just want someone just who signs the contract, but kind of a long-term relationship.
Exactly right. That's exactly. I think that's gotten bigger and bigger, recently, more than anything. These contracts are a huge proponent, but then there's so much more of helping them, because to your point of 78% of athletes go broke within 3 years of playing in the NFL or NBA. I mean, that number is scary, and I think a lot of agencies will say, well, that's not our fault. We didn't do anything to make that. We made them $150 million in the NBA or NFL. I disagree with that completely, because you were able to help negotiate and build this wealth for your client. But if you didn't give them the resources, or at least help them, and show them different ways, or educate them in something that they didn't know, or show them different avenues, then it really is a reflection on the agency as well. So that's a huge part for us as well.
I mean, it's great that you guys really take care of the entire athlete, not just the initial contract and then just forget about it.
Exactly.
How has COVID affected you this past year from a sports agency perspective?
The only difference really has been traveling. It's gone from being on a plane every single week to being on a plane every 2 or 3 weeks. So not being able to come, go and see clients in person, obviously in football, unless it was the select sports, and even select stadiums, and even still in basketball, where some arenas are still not allowing fans yet. The travel and recruiting and being with our guys face to face has just really diminished this year. But I think with everything starting to open up again, I think that will just be a minor blimp, but that's been the biggest, without
The
a
biggest
doubt, of
difference.
just the travel and the face to face. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about you and your career, because you've done such amazing things at such an early stage. And, becoming a sports agent, owning a sports agency like you've started and run, obviously very competitive, very difficult to do. What do you feel like, what have been the keys to your success to get to where you are today?
Sure. I think the biggest blessing that I've had in this, one, when I left SMU, I actually started a sports marketing firm. So I was doing everything other than the contract. So, finding the appearances, finding the endorsements for athletes, helping them build a brand and, build a website, building a clothing line, and then it went farther of, helping them give back in their community. And then all of a sudden seeing where all these agencies started reaching out saying, hey, take over our marketing, department, and we'll just continue the contract. And that's when I was like, why would I not start a full service sports agency, and do every single aspect of it. So that was the biggest blessing. And then the same token to that of, me, I'm NBA certified, so I do all of our basketball contracts on the same token of that, of players that weren't supposed to be in the NBA or, were on the outside looking in. So I had to call every team to bang down doors, to really get them in the door. And then they took care of their business and did everything that they were supposed to do. But I had the different route of it. Then, last year we had the number 5 overall pick in basketball. So really the phone's ringing, for you in that aspect. It was the exact opposite when I started, 10 years ago on this.
Got you. So you're about to get out of the car. Do you have any more time for questions, or you got to roll?
Yeah, of course. No, of course. Bye.
All right, awesome.
If
you could do it over again, what would you do differently? Or would you do it the exact same way? You wouldn't change anything. That's fine too.
No, I think no. You always have to improve and always have to find better ways. I think I would have been more selective from the beginning. Rather than just sign any player or trying to build your brand. I think signing the right kind of people are the most important. I say it all the time when we're meeting with people. I don't want to do this for one contract, and I don't even want to do this for 2 contracts. I want this to be, literally, if we're signing, it's bigger than just client agent relationship. I really want it to be that family feel. So having the right kind of people, and not having the guys that are looking, hey, come in and they have, a huge entourage, or they're looking for, a quick handout or quick fix. It's about having the people that, really see the same vision that I see, and what we've built here with the agency. I think that's the biggest differentiation, and what I would, I guess, do differently if I did it all over again.
Got you. And who are your role models? Why did you go into this profession, and who would you say have been and are your biggest role models?
So that's another great question. That's a great question, because everyone asks me why did I start in a sports agency, and when it's so cutthroat and it's so tough, and it's a nasty business in a lot of ways, but I really just did it because I saw that there was just something missing, and again, that went more to the marketing aspect and trying to help athletes off the field and off the court. So that was the biggest reason of why I started, because I just saw kind of a void in that. And then I guess, like, even bigger than the role models has just been, the athletes that see that same vision. And that's why, I feel like we've been able to build such a successful brand in such a short period of time. Is, our clients have realized they're not just clients, they're truly our family with us. So I think that's been the most rewarding and exciting part of the whole journey to start.
I mean, like you said, it's ultra competitive. A lot of people love sports. They see that you can make a lot of money. It's fun. It's exciting. It's intellectually stimulating. People want to go into it, but it's so competitive.
Exactly.
What would be your advice for someone, high school, college, graduate school, who wants to do what you want to do? What's the biggest piece of advice that you would tell someone trying to emulate you?
I mean, well, one, go for it. Two, you know, realize there's really no bread or butter, or there's no this is the way it's got to go. You know, so I always go back to outwork anybody. You know, Mark Cuban says, work like there's someone working 24 hours a day to take it all away from you. I think in this sports business, it's so true, because, you know, you're dealing with people, you know, first and foremost. So you don't have the traditional 8 to 5 job in the sports agency where, you know, athletes are playing late games and then want to talk about the game, or, you know, have a question that's completely unrelated to the game, or unrelated to sports, and really just being there, like I keep saying, for our guys. I think just literally, if you have the passion for it and have the sports, have the love for sports, then you'll never say you're working a day in your life, because you love what you're doing. But I think it's the aspect of it. It's a 7-day journey every single week, because there's no Monday through Friday, and the weekends are off, you know, because obviously football, everyone's playing on Sundays, and basketball, there's obviously weekend games every single time. And again, they're people first and foremost. So they're always going to, you know, want you to be there for them and with them as well. So as long as you love sports and bleed sports, then it's an amazing journey to be on.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to love what you do, and I'm a huge proponent of that. I always tell people that whatever you decide to go into, you got to be passionate about. So it's great to see that from you. Look, I'm going to let you enjoy your day. You know, it looks like an amazing day out there. It's a beautiful day in Miami. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
You know, thanks for joining us. Everything you've done is so inspirational, and the fact how you've taken Young Money to be at the level that it is now, it's really next level, and everyone knows Young Money. It's kind of a household name in terms of sports agency. So kudos to everything you and all your colleagues have done. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. So
thanks so much, Doug. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.